Hello, I'm going to show you now how to use Sumif, Averageif and Countif. Now all of these three functions work on a fairly similar way. What they do, they allow you to total in the case of Sumif, average in the case of Averageif and count in the case of Countif the list based on a criteria. So in this example I want to know for Sumif what the total earnings are for anyone in the north, south, east and west. For Averageif, I would like to know the average amount of earnings in the north, south, east or west. And for Countif, I would like to know how many people there are in the north, south, east or west. Now first of all, I'm going to show you Sumif. Now Sumif always starts by, you click where you want the answer to be, equals on the keyboard, and then if you just start typing Sumif, it will come up in the options list. You can either double click or continue typing if you want, or if I press tab, can you see that I'll fill it in just there. Now there's three things we've got to tell it. We've got something called range, something called criteria, and then something called sum range. Now range is the column of the list that tells us whether any given line is something we're interested in. So we want to sum anyone who is in the north region. So the thing that we populate the range with is the column that contains the mention of whether that person is in the north. So that would be the region column. So the range is in effect the piece of information that identifies each line to the function as whether it needs to be included in the answer. So that's going to be my region column. After that, comma, can you see the next thing we're asked for is the criteria. Now the criteria is the thing that we are trying to find a match to within the range that we just highlighted. Now I'm going to highlight this cell here because I want to pick up whatever's been typed there, or if I wanted to, I could have typed in there in speech marks the word north. That means it would statically pick up the word north as my criteria, but me personally I would prefer to highlight like so, because I want to be able to change what's in that cell. Following that, comma, sum range is the column that contains the piece of information that once it finds a match to the criteria in the range, it's going to scoot across to the same row and it's going to add that figure to the total. So what this is going to do is going to pick up north because that is the criteria. It's going to go to the range column, which is here, and it's going to go line by line, and it's almost in the background going to say, are you north? No, 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 and then it will stop when there's a match to north. When there's a match to north, it's going to scoot across, grab that figure, add that to the total, and the reason why it's going to scoot across is because, can you see this sum range section? That's what we've selected as the item we want to add up. So once I'm ready, if I now press enter, that is now the total earnings for the north. If I overtype this with the word south, can you see it changes the total that we're getting to be based on whatever region we actually type in there. Also, if I make it so there is another person in the north in that column, can you see the total automatically adjusts by the person's earnings that I have just changed. Now, Averageif is pretty much identical. Here we go. Equals average if range criteria average range. So range would be again my region column like so all the way down to the bottom. After that I'm going to go back up, comma, criteria is the fact I'm looking for the north, comma, average range, that's going to be the list of earnings because I would like to know the average earnings for anyone in that particular region, which in this case is the north. I'm going to close that bracket, and then once I'm ready, if I now press enter, that is the average earnings for the north. Now Countif, finally, you have to kind of keep an eye out for this because it's ever so slightly different to Sumif and Averageif in the sense that rather than having three things you've got to tell it, we only have two. We have to tell it the range, which is going to be this list of regions just down here. And then the only thing we have to tell it after that is the criteria we're looking for in the range. Because we don't have to tell it something to add up or average, because all Countif is going to do, it's going to count how many times the word north occurs within that region. So once I'm ready, if I now press enter, can you see it tells me that 8 people in the North region. So obviously feel free to have a go with the South, the East and the West as well, but that is how you do Sumif, Averageif and Countif to give you some selective totals from a list in Excel.